A whole new season of the British GT Championship starts right here. Welcome to 2017. Welcome to Oulton Park in Cheshire. Welcome to typical bank holiday weather. It's a wet circuit. We've had overnight rain, we've had morning rain, but it's still a big crowd and they're still coming in anticipation of two 60-minute races, both with mandatory pit stops, with a very good entry indeed. 9 different manufacturers, for example, represented across GT3 and GT4. You've got Aston Martin, you've got Lamborghini, Bentley, you've got Porsche, you've got Ferrari, you've got Ginetta as well, you've got Nissan in the mix. It is going to be a spectacular brace of races with the driver changes, mandatory pit stops, and a busy day of support races as well, because it's not just about GT. We've got the Mini Challenge, the Volkswagen Racing Cup, and the Ginetta GT5 Challenge to look forward to. All of that before lunch, and then we come back on air this afternoon for the second GT race and another helping of drama from the Mini Challenge. A lot to look forward to then today, and this year's GT Championship with a very strong entry indeed. But last year's championship went right down to the wire. Let's have a look back at the best bits of 2016.
Previously in the British GT Championship.
As we get ready to start the season at Brands Hatch, it's a huge shunt. And it's driver, massive barrel roll. Oh, big spin from the Lotus. TF Sport claiming victory here at Brands. Great start from the McLaren. Oh my goodness! I don't think he saw him in the mirrors. The TF Sport Aston Martin, 2 wins from 2 starts. Stunning weather and a massive crowd at Oulton Park. And trouble for Will Maughan. The first ever win in British GT for Lamborghini. Round 5 of the British GT Championship gets underway behind the safety car. Trouble for the championship leaders. Seb Morris on the outside and onto the dirt. Phil Keane takes the checkered flag. Our GT4 winners, Aaron Mason and Robert Barrable. 58 car grid. Contact behind. Oh, a trouble for Paul Hollywood. John Barnes wins at Spa for TF Sport. The white and red 51 Ginetta wins the GT4 cars. Round 7 of the British GT Championship. Contact! Down the inside, it's full contact! Oh, turns around the championship leader. Minshaw and Keane claim victory and take a slender championship lead. Final Sunday of the season. Moving through the field on contact. Hot Bob's Aston is off. Getting out of the no-list, Lamborghini's gone off. John Minshaw's championship surely is over. The championship goes to Derek Johnston and Johnny Adam. And in GT4, Mike Robertson and Graham Johnson win the title.
A great season of racing last year. Well, let's see what 27 has in store. Dramatic qualifying on Saturday. The way the timetable works here is that you qualify Saturday in GT, you race on Monday, and it was a frenetic day. We had a couple of cars with damage, and one of the leading drivers, Derek Johnston, involved in an accident that put him to the back of his group in qualifying. A number of drivers, like Johnny Adam, Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin, all away at Silverstone over the weekend, so they haven't qualified up until this morning, so they start their respective races from the back of the GT3 group as well. It means there is a lot to look forward to when we go racing. This is David Addison in the box. Martin Haven will be up here with me for a great afternoon of racing. But let's go down to the pit lane first of all and join Alex Le Gouy.
Hello there, thank you very much, David. Yeah, I am down the pit lane here at what I would love to say was a glorious Oulton Park, but it's not. It's raining, which is going to make the races rather interesting. But where better to start our 25th year than here? It is, of course, one of the drivers and the fans' favourites. Like you said, David, qualifying was very interesting. Jack Mitchell did hold pole until the red flag came down. Then when session resumed, Team Parker snatched it with Rick Parfitt Jr. But like you picked up on, interesting to find Derek Johnston not in the top pack. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on today. We've got 2 one-hour races in store for you, and joining me right now is the lovely Martin Haven, who is co-commentator. Not very nice out here, is it? How are these cars going to fare in this?
Well, I just passed Ginetta boss Lawrence Tomlinson on the stairs. I said, this is lovely Ginetta weather, and it really is. The bigger, the more powerful your car, the less chance you have of getting the power on the road. So the lighter, less powerful cars, and we'll see that with the GT4 cars, they have a little less power than the GT3 cars, and they'll fare a little bit better. More horsepower, more wheel spin, less speed. So they're big old beasts. Here in the dry, this is a fast track. It's really tight and twisty though, so yeah, it's going to be tough.
28 cars, 9 manufacturers, 12 of which GT3s, 18 of which are GT4s. So there are a lot of GT4s out there.
Well, there are. I mean, GT4 is the learning category, if you like. It's the base level of the ladder of GT racing. You move up to GT3, then the GTE cars, which race at races like Le Mans. So it's where everybody cuts their teeth, and there are drivers now in the GT3 field that started in GT4, teams in the GT3 field who also started in GT4. So basically, the cars look the same. A GT3 or GT4 Aston Martin, it's an Aston Martin. The McLaren is a McLaren. They look the same. You'll see that the GT3 cars have much bigger wings, more aerodynamic front ends, and they have more horsepower as well. We've
got reigning stars, we've also got returning stars, and some new faces, and some interesting new faces, haven't we? The likes of Tordoff, for example.
Yeah, Sam Tordoff making an interesting choice to leave the British Touring Car Championship, where he's raced the last 3 or 4 years, and come to British GT. Yeah, and it's a different way of going motor racing. I mean, very different. We've got drivers that have come up from the British Formula 3 Championship, have come across from touring cars, where they're used to 20-minute, 25-minute sprint races. Now, each of the stints they do in these 1-hour races, which are the shortest format in the championship, is going to be longer than a race that they'd normally do. And they have to hand the car over or take it over from somebody else in hopefully a serviceable condition. So there's a whole different dynamics, a very different mindset. And that's just these 1-hour sprints. When we get to the 2- and 3-hour races, then it really is a completely different kettle of fish.
The races are going to be very, very exciting. For now, though, let's have a look at the on-board pole lap from Saturday from Team Parker.
You're riding with Seb Morris as he powers out of Deer Leap. Very different weather conditions on Saturday. A dry circuit at Oulton Park. This, the first right-hander, Old Hall corner. Back on the power, run up to the curb on the outside, and then up through the gears. The right-hand kink at Denton. Just as you've done that, it's hard on the brakes, drop down to Cascades, and almost a hairpin left as the road loops back on you. Straighten the car up, back on the power, up through the gears, along Lakeside Straight, and then down towards the fast left at Island Bend. The shorter circuit hairpin on the right, you ignore that, you go left. There's a lift, back on the power and hard on the brakes. The banked right-hander at Shell Oil's corner, down through the gears, turn through the right, patient with the throttle, back onto the power now. Speed building once more, turn right, and then hard on the brakes. Left, right, left. The flick through Britain's. And the car growls its way over Hilltop and then down towards Hislops. Again, heavy braking coming up. It's a possible overtaking opportunity this, but it's a narrow circuit, Oulton Park. You go right and left through Hislops, and then you rejoin the old fabled Knickerbrook corner. Turn in, back on the power, uphill, and this is Clay Hill. You aim for the tree on the right-hand side. That gives you the best line heading up towards Water Tower, which is the left, and then in turn, there are 2 bites of Druids. That's the first, that's the second. Run out to the curb on the outside of the road, under the vehicle bridge, and then down towards Lodge Corner. Great part of the circuit this. Again, it's hard on the brakes. You turn in, the road drops away. Downhill, up Deer Leap, bare left, over the timing line, and Seb Morris through to go onto pole position for Team Parker and his co-driver Rick Parfitt going quickest in his session as well. The Bentley in great form. That is the car that is going to start on pole position for the first race with Rick Parfitt at the wheel. But Seb Morris, who will do the second stint, is with Alex.
Yep, down here with Seb from Team Parker. Well, what a very nice start to the weekend for you guys.
Yeah, well, Saturday was really good for us. We had a really clear run. Both did good laps, but today the heavens have opened, which isn't ideal for us. Our car's historically not very good in the wet, just because we're front engined and we can't get any weight over the rear axle in the wet. The car's got very good mechanical grip, and when it rains, a lot of that gets taken away from us. So we put the best setup on that we can, and we're just going to see how we go.
Last year, you had a pretty good session here, didn't you? P3 in race 1, and then you won race 2. So your car does fare pretty well around here.
Yeah, in the dry we're very good, but we're going into the unknown in the wet. We've not done any laps here at all in the wet, so we're just going to see how we go, really. If we drop a couple of places, we're not too bothered. At least we wouldn't get the pit stop penalty for the next race, so we're going in with the mentality we're just going to get the points.
Rick, pole man, come back. Congratulations. Stupid question, what was your strategy then for this opening race?
Score points. That's it. I've got to get my helmet on. He'll tell you the rest.
Good skills. Yeah. So that is that. Is it literally to get around the weekend, or is it to come out guns blazing to try and win?
We're just going to try and get around this first race, and hopefully, but come the second race, it'll be dry and I'm starting. I can really unleash it. But I think for now, because the Lambos are a lot quicker than us, we think they're about 2 seconds a lap faster, if not more. So it's going to be about collecting points today and hoping that some of them will drop off.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, fingers crossed for your weekend, Seb. Thank you very much. Guns are blazing, says Seb. Dave, back to you.
Looking forward to what should be a very good first race then. Drivers getting the helmets on, getting on board the cars, and they will be heading out onto the circuit very shortly. The way the format of the championship works for these 1 hour races is that one driver starts the first race and the co-driver will start the second. And you'll get a very different feel to each race. It's going to be fascinating, the first one, when you get the quicker drivers in the second stint and watch them carve their way through the field. We'll be back at Oulton Park with the build-up for the first round of the British GT Championship right after the break.
Century Motorsport, with Alan Velasco, share that Podium, and of course we can't keep the boss of Jeanette himself on the top of the way, so long as we don't do the honours, we're going to do the pro top three first. We also have the Amazon, so we're doing the pro top three. In third place, Kate Stoney. In second place, Nick Sapolsky. And the winner of the Oulton Ground 2017 Pro Tournament Sports GT5 Challenge, Max Bird. Each congratulate the other. And Jonathan, like you all to be on the top set, please. Lawrence needs to get in on the act as well. Even though it's been older.
Welcome back to Oulton Park in Cheshire. We are getting set for the first round of the British GT Championship. The pit lane will be opening any moment, and the cars will then pour their way out onto the circuit. And it is a fabulous entry, including a number of drivers new to the British GT Championship, but somebody who has been around the championship for a long, long time is Martin Short. He is with Alex Le Gui.
Yep, I am down here with Martin. New car is heading out, but you're heading out into P10, which is quite a tricky place to be, isn't it, here at Oulton Park?
Yeah, neither of our. Well, I think Richard's quite likes this track. It's certainly not my favourite. It's definitely not a place to be in the wet in P10. Just got to see what happens around the first corner.
Tell us about the new car then. How's it faring? How's it feeling?
Beautiful car. Really pleased with it. Although we've done very little testing with it, and we've had no idea on a wet setup. So that's really hurt us. So we don't know where it's going to take us. In the dry, the handling is really superb. And obviously we're an am-am pairing, so it's a bit difficult when we're up against the 22-year-old fighting furies of the young lads they are now.
Yeah, you say that you're not sure how it's going to fare though, but I've spoken to a few people. Last year was dry here at Oulton Park, and actually there are quite a few people that have said we're not entirely sure how this car is going to fare around here in the wet.
What does that apply to other people as well, you're saying? Yeah. We just don't know. We're not very confident with the car on the wet at the moment, that's for sure. We did warm up, and I think if the pace in the car was there, the pace in the driver wasn't. So we'll just... it is what it is. We hope that this car will run better towards the end of the race rather than the beginning. It's very good on its tyres, and we'll just see where we end up. It's a very sad, cliche kind of way to say things, unfortunately. We'll see.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
David, back to you.
Thanks, Alex. Good luck, Martin. He goes into this feeling a little daunted, perhaps, but a hugely experienced racer is Martin Short. He can trace his roots back to the 1980s and Formula First one-make single-seater racing. He was a pace setter in Metro Turbos, in the Rover Turbo Championship, TVR Tuscans, and then into British GT, competitive as a privateer at Le Mans with very, very good results a decade or so ago. And then he's been racing in, if you like, club-level endurance events, the 24-hour series and Brit Car with success. Again, regular race winner, and Martin, bags of experience, so he might not be talking himself up for a win, and as an amateur pairing it might be out of the question, but there's a lot of experience in that car, certainly from Martin's point of view. Don't rule him out. There is the Roll Centre Run car. Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing is the entrant. Martin's familiar green colour scheme that has adorned his cars for many, many seasons now. Richard Neary will start this race. Whoops, 21, getting all sideways there is Duncan Cameron, who is one of the drivers hot-footing it back from Silverstone, where he and Matt Griffin were fourth in their class in the European Le Mans Series race over the weekend. And Duncan Cameron at his home circuit, because he's from the Wirral originally, getting a little bit crossed up. He's not the only one. We've had one of the Ginettas, I understand, slithering off the road on this installation lap round to the grid, so it is very treacherous indeed. And remember that this race is going to be started by, in the majority of cases, the amateur driver. The championship isn't exclusively Pro-Am, as you just heard. There is the option to have two AMs, but you can also have two silver drivers. And if you have two silver drivers, your car carries extra weight. We'll touch on this during the race when we get to the relevant battles and see how the weight affects things. but the theory being that the more successful your drivers are, therefore the better, therefore the faster, then to compensate for having two together and give other people a chance and equate things, then you just carry a little bit more weight. This is what it looks like heading up towards the grid. You can see that the road is still damp. You can see the water on the windscreen of Rick Parfitt's Bentley Continental GT3 run by Stuart Parker's team. One of many squads that's been on double duty this weekend at Oulton Park and at Donington for the British Touring Car Championship weekend. And Stuart is now here to oversee things. And Rick Parfitt, along with Seb Morris, they were a great combination. They were race winners last year. They're looking for even more success this year, heading up towards the grid now. The Bentley, which you could argue is at its home circuit, because of course Bentley, a very proud concern based in Crewe, not far away from Oulton Park. And its motorsport programme really has escalated in recent years. It came back, of course, to win Le Mans in 2003 in sports car racing, but as a GT brand, the Continental has been on the scene now for, what, 3-4 seasons, not just in international racing, but national GT categories as well, and with huge success. And a highlight of the Bentley year is always its awards ceremony, where last year Team Parker was an award winner for its stellar contribution to Bentley's success from the British GT Championship. So the grid is being formed, and just start to drool, because you've got Bentley and there is Lamborghini alongside on the front row of the grid. Rick Parfitt and John Minshaw on the front of the grid. Then on the second row it's Aston Martin, number 24, with Jack Mitchell starting, and then Liam Griffin with his Barwell run Lamborghini to line up alongside. GT3 and GT4 cars run together. To say entry level for GT4 stretches the point a little bit, but it's the cheaper option for the less powerful, less exotic cars, and it is a very big entry indeed in there, with the likes of McLaren 570s, Ginetta, Aston Martin, the Nissan 370Z, and there's one of the very svelte Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sports in the mix as well, plus Ginetta G55. So two races within one in terms of the category, and then you start also to look at the individual battles amongst the different driver grading pairs as well, whether we're looking at the Pro-Am battle or the Silver and Am battle, or indeed the Ams. That's John Minshaw, good to go. Another local driver, he's another Cheshire driver, Demon Tweaks, the family concern, the racewear specialist that his father Alan Minshaw, great touring car driver, founded. And John Minshaw looking for a home win, partnered by the very quick Phil Keane. They were unlucky not to win the championship last year, but John's going to be one to watch. And having just mentioned Phil Keane, he's a potential winner of this first race. Let's hear his thoughts. He's down on the grid with Alex.
Yep, down here on the grid with Phil. So, P2, but front row of the grid. What's this spot like then for this first corner? What's the strategy?
I don't know yet. Stay out of trouble. We just need to score some points in the first round. You know, John's feeling confident and he loves these conditions, so just looking forward to the start. You had a bit of a frustrating end to 2016. Lost it in the final round, I believe. What's the plan for this year? Do you feel like you've got a chance to win it? Yeah, I think so. You know, we'll go out there and give it our best shot and see what we can do. And how's John sitting in there? He looks very focused. Yeah, I think he's calm. Like I said, he loves this place. It's local to him, and he loves these conditions. So, fingers crossed. That's good to hear, because we've heard a few people very worried. It is very wet now. How does this car fare around in these conditions? Oh, I think the car's very good in these conditions. Barwell and Lambo have done a great job with it. So, you know, we'll just see how it goes. Ah, well, that is a very positive start for Barwell. Good luck. Thank you very much. David.
Thanks, Alex. So, yes, indeed, Barwell will be one of the top teams this year. No question. Mark Lemmer, who is the man behind Barwell, a very successful racer himself in one-make categories and then in the British Touring Car Championship. There, down on the grid, Sam Tordoff sharing with Liam Griffin, former touring car racers both, and Sam moving to GT racing this year. Runner-up in the British Touring Car Championship last year to Gordon Shedden. And looking forward to a different type of racing for this season. But don't for a moment think that this is any less fierce than the BTCC. There might be longer races, they might be more expensive cars, there might be pit stops, there might be driver changes, but it is still a very competitive championship. And as Alex touched on a while ago, it is 25 years this year since the British GT Championship started. It was then the National Sports and GT Championship when the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club, kicked it off at Donington Park in 1993. It was a modest grid, all Porsches. Boy, has it grown since SRO, the Stefan Rattel organisation, took it over in 2004. And with the global success of GT3 and GT4 racing, this is perhaps the most competitive national championship. And the fact that you've got drivers not just from the UK but from America coming into it this year illustrates just how competitive it is. And there, Harry Gottsacker, one of those drivers moving into the championship this year, having raced in the States. He drives for the Century Motorsport team with the team owner Nathan Freak. Nathan Freak, again, a very quick single-seater driver of years past before he came into Ginetta racing and then into GT racing. He's player manager really. Century Motorsport is his team, but Nathan, a very, very accomplished driver. And he'll be one to watch as well. The Ginettas in these conditions should go well. Relatively nimble cars compared to some of the big beasts around them. You're looking at the back of the grid, stretching up Deer Leap. Now, just to make the point, even though you think, gosh, that's unfair, an uphill start, it's a rolling start. So once they get the warming up lap underway, they don't stop on the grid again. They will go straight into the race. But I'm just wondering whether it might be 2 warming up laps, because it was dry for the most part on Saturday. Change of track condition. It might be that the race director elects to give them a second warming up lap, just so they have a chance to familiarise with the conditions. And also I'm curious now to think about tyres, because it's not raining, it is a wet road, but if they start on wets and the road dries out, it's going to be fascinating in the pit stops, because there'll be more than just a driver change to have to cope with. And the teams here will be on their toes to try and second guess what the weather conditions are going to do. We've talked about GT4, and one of the cars to beat in that category is going to be the McLaren 570S of Black Bull Garage 59. Sandy Mitchell, the driver, with Alex.
Our pole man for GT4, Sandy Mitchell from Black Bull Garage 59. Nice place to be. You guys are the ones to beat, so to speak. You had a great year last year, P3 in the championship. How are you feeling now? I guess pretty positive.
Yeah, qualifying went well. It's the place everybody wants to start as pole, so yeah, interesting conditions. We've not done loads in these conditions. We went well in testing in them, so yeah, see how it goes. You went well in testing, fastest in free practice, fastest in qualifying. That's puts you in pretty good stead, you'd have thought. Hopefully, yeah. You never know. It's quite a bit wetter than what we tested in. And yeah, all the cars are sort of setup changes and everything, so yeah, we'll just have to see. And Kieran, how is he doing? Yeah, very well. We're starting P2 for the second race as well, so yeah, really good in qualifying and looking forward to it. Fingers crossed for a positive weekend for Black Bull Garage 59. David, over to you.
Should be positive, because they've got all the ingredients. Good car, good drivers, good engineers. They had a warm-up session this morning, incidentally, here at Oulton Park at the Crackle Sparrows, and it was wet then. So because they have had 10 minutes worth of wet running, there's only going to be the normal one formation lap round to the start of the race. Parker Chase, another of the drivers that's raced in the Pirelli World Series in America, he will share with Charlie Robertson in the Ginetta, run by Century Motorsport once again. 2 very quick drivers, although Parker Chase doesn't know Oulton Park terribly well. Charlie Robertson is a real star, the little Scotsman, so that's going to be a car to watch as well as the crowd gets ready for this opening round of the championship. We're looking forward to the cars getting underway and an enthralling race that might be weather affected, but it really is going to be a stormer with such a high quality entry this year, including the Mercedes there of Lee Mole, which will be good to go. Round 1 of the British GT Championship is almost ready to go. We'll be back here at Oulton Park for the start in a few moments. And so we get set for the opening round of the championship. The grid now starting to be cleared, in fact, so the VIPs and the engineers are making their way from the grid back into the pit lane, and the 1 minute board engines will fire up. The last of the engineers will leave the grid. There are some very nervous co-drivers, of course, making their way off the grid. Richard Neary at the wheel of the Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing Mercedes gets ready, and he too is a nervous driver, but he's at his home circuit, the man from Formby. But in these conditions, let's see what he can do. The rather better prepared spectators are sheltering, but is it getting any brighter? Marginally, he says, trying to be optimistic about all of this. So the grid is emptying, and the opening round of British GT has, although not last year, but for the majority of recent seasons, been at Oulton Park, and it's always a great sight when they come pouring out of Deer Leap and over the timing line. But in these wet conditions, good luck to everybody behind the wheel as we get set for 60 minutes of racing. Pit window is between 25 and 35 minutes of the race, and depending on how your categorisation is GT3 or GT4, 65 seconds a pit stop for GT3 and 100 for GT4. So all of that is monitored very carefully by the timekeeping service, and if your pit stop is too short, then a little alert will go the way of Bernard Cottrell, who is the race director, and a penalty could be applied. So the cars in a few moments set to be released. Still the pit lane is filling up with people that have been on the grid, and Oulton Park with a slightly crowded pit lane. It's going to be very busy indeed. So we have the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini there at the front of the grid. John Minshaw to start, and a man with a point to prove, really, after coming so close to winning the championship last year. Great historic racer, John, before he came into modern GT racing. He's got a lovely fleet of cars, both GT, sports car and Formula One, that he races at historic events. And let's see how he fares in this opening round of the British GT Championship. What a grid, look at that, stretching down with Bentley and Lamborghini at the front, and the McLaren safety car, as it will be, pace car for the start of the race, ready to lead them around. And that's the back of the grid where GT4 drivers are good to go. And the field prepares for the opening round of the championship, get set for a dramatic hour of action here at Oulton Park. Round one of the British GT Championship for 2017 is about to get underway. They've had free practice, they've had qualifying, they've had a warm-up session, they've had a whole winter to do deals and go testing. Now, all of that talking can stop for the teams. It'll start for us, because this is going to be a very busy race indeed. David Addison and Martin Haven trackside. It's a great entry, Martin, and a fantastic race in prospect.
And really treacherous conditions as well, spitting and spotting. There's no sign that the track has dried, so no question about tyre choice, no question about everybody on the grid desperate to make sure they survive this first race. And there are 2 races in the day. If you have an incident here, you effectively could write off both races, and with it possibly your championship chances. So nervy times.
Now, you mentioned the fact that they're all on wet, but if we can get through the first stint and the track starts to dry, people might think about combining the regulation driver change pit stop with a tyre change, but you want to be sure that it's dry enough to do that. So you might actually end up having to leave the slower AM driver out just a bit longer to get into that window to make sure the track conditions then come back to you for slick tyres. So the teams in the pit lane have got quite a juggle to do here.
And only a 10-minute window, and you think, well, that's not very much in terms of weather, but with 30-odd cars pounding round, you know, another 2 or 3 laps might just tip the balance, you're right.
And also, this is not the biggest of pit lanes, so it could well be that whatever you think you've done absolutely spot on for the call, bring the car in, a team next to you on either side does the same, and you get hemmed in. It's really busy in that pit lane, isn't it?
Yeah, we've seen races won or lost by somebody else coming in just as you're trying to leave and blocking the exit. So, yeah, there's all sorts of imponderables. This is a great time of the season as well, isn't it? Everything's about to get started, and genuinely, we can't pick a champion. We can't pick a race winner. You know, if you pick a podium, it really is just throwing names in the air and waiting for them to come down. So, at the moment, everyone's a winner.
I was going to offer you the entry list and a pin, really, because that's about as scientific as it gets.
Yeah,
because
a dartboard and a blindfold.
Precisely.
Exactly so.
As Martin says, you just don't know who's going to survive this first lap. We've seen plenty of drama in GT racing here over the years. Oulton, big drama there. Number 24 with steam and smoke, Jack Mitchell. Now, that could well delay the start. Let's see.
Yes, that's the GT4 Aston Martin, brand new for the team this season. They entered with GT4 last year. That's their GT3 car. So, third on the grid, Macmillan AMR. And that is really bad news.
Well, the cars are being released onto the formation lap. The good news from the officials' point of view is they can push that off the grid pretty quickly, and then we can get the start of the race underway. But it is very bad news indeed, isn't it, for Macmillan AMR. Jack Mitchell and James Littlejohn, 2 very quick drivers. James, somebody with a good pedigree in historic racing, and Jack Mitchell stepping up, as you say, from GT4 to GT3. So the officials go to work. They can push that car backwards and get it off the track. Whether any liquid has been spilt, they'll have to have a look, because add oil to water on the racing line coming out of Deer Leap. That's a recipe for a horror story.
Well, everybody expects oil to be slippery, but these cars use not just water, but a special lubricant that raises the boiling point of the liquid so that they boil at a higher temperature, and so actually that is as greasy as well. So yes, if there is anything on the track there, it is at least way off the racing line, unless you're trying to overtake somebody.
Well, yeah, we'll see how that pans out, because this, as we have a look at the grid, is the opening round of the championship. It is going to be Rick Parfitt that starts on pole, John Minshaw alongside, a gap where Jack Mitchell should have been, and then Liam Griffin lining up fourth ahead of Mark Farmer, and then it is Harry Gottsacker. Seventh is Ian Loggie's Bentley ahead of Parker Chase. Lee Mole's Mercedes is ninth, and the similar car of Richard Neary alongside. He's 10th on the grid. 11th, it's where you find the reigning champions, Derek Johnston and Johnny Adam. Alongside them, Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin. Next is Jack Mitchell. Then you've got Stuart Middleton starting with Matt Nicol-Jones' car with Will Moore at the wheel of it next. Then it will be Will Phillips ahead of Graham Johnson. And Dean McDonald, the youngest driver on the grid at 16 years and 132 days old. Next on the grid, it is going to be Marcus Hogarth, and then former Caterham racer Adam Ballon, 20th. 21st is Sam Webster. 22nd, Anna Volevska. 23rd on the grid, David Patterson's Ginetta ahead of Nick Jones with the Porsche. Then the first of the two unorthodox looking Nissan 370s, but they're effective cars nonetheless. Tim Eakin will line up alongside one-time touring car racer Richard Marsh, and then Richard Tappender has Alex Reed for company at the back of the grid. So you've got lots of the young guns, as I say. Keep an eye on Dean McDonald, who drives number 59 in GT4, 16 years and 132 days old. I've got socks older than that, but Dean is a very quick driver indeed, fresh out of karting. It's a big step up for him, this.
Fresh out of karting, I mean, that is a massive step up. I mean, really, just phenomenal. And perhaps fittingly, Team Parker on pole. Bentley used to be built just down the road at Rolls-Royce Motors in Crewe, and that's the nearest big town to us here in Oulton Park. But they've already said it's treacherous.
Yeah, and that point you were making about the car dropping liquid, fluid on grid has been offered now on the timing screen, and actually, because that car was on the inside of the row of the grid, it is pretty much on the racing line as you come out of Deer Leap. There is the fluid, and they will run across that, so the teams being warned by the timing screen, the engineers can then relay the message to the drivers as the cars now come through Lodge Corner up towards Deer Leap, the opening round of the 2017 British GT Championship here at Oulton Park. About to get underway as the lights go out, the cars accelerate down towards Old Hall Corner for the first time on the outside line there. John Minshaw gets the very good start. The Lamborghini leads into Old Hall. Second is Rick Parfitt. Third is going to be Liam Griffin. The clock starts, an hour of action is underway. They tiptoe their way around Old Hall, and those in the mid-pack are in the spray. So John Minshaw is in the box seat. He's got the visibility, but he's the pioneer, Martin. He's got to find the grip levels on every corner now.
The leader always finds there's not enough grip first, doesn't he? But at least he can see where he's going. And for everybody from about third back, it is blind navigation now. You'll see the cars fanning out all over the road, not looking for clear air, but looking to try and see where the braking markers are for the next corner. Until they really get a feel for the track, you're kind of driving a little bit blind.
Having a go on the outside line there, Lee Mole in the red Mercedes as they file their way through Shell Oils for the first time. Battles on in GT4, but there, getting away very discernibly, is John Minshaw ahead of Rick Parfitt then in the Bentley, local driver leading local car, and the rest of the field all filing through. Now this is Britain's. You go over Hilltop and then down towards Hislops, and off the road goes the race leader. So much for local knowledge. John Minshaw toboggans his way across the grass at Hislops. He gets back onto the circuit. Now if you go up the escape road there and you gain an advantage, a penalty often comes. He's got to cross the grass, and look, he's actually built the lead, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. John Minshaw, this is his local circuit. Demon Tweaks, of course, based just up the road, and he's been racing here. His father raced here before him for many years. Trouble for another of the Aston Martins. That's the 62 GT4 car, and obviously the bonnet pins weren't closed there. Got to say that the 24 car, it looked like it had blown a main hose. There was litres of fluid all over the grid there. So the Bentley in second position, and they were telling us just before the cars went out onto the grid, they said we've got no chance here. The Lamborghini has got such good wet weather traction compared to the Bentley, and John Minshaw comes across the line, one lap into the hour, 2.5 seconds clear at least of the lead of the rest of the pack. So
make that 5 seconds, in fact, 5 seconds. Yes. And there, in the gloom, in the spray, the rest of the field come through. The Aston Martin you saw shedding bodywork was that of Will Moore, and there, turning through Old Hall Corner, is Sandy Mitchell in the GT4 leading McLaren as the cars now work their way down through Dentons and onto Cascade. So John Minshaw it is leading the pack and getting away from the opposition as they work their way through here, Island Bend. And look, the Barwell Run Lamborghini is out on its own. 5 seconds at the end of the opening lap. That is quite a margin. I know he had an unorthodox line through his lots, but even so, John Minshaw has gone, and there, second on his own pretty much is Rick Parfitt. And then you've got a real battle pack. Yeah. Griffin ahead of Farmer, ahead of Gottsacker, Mole, and then Ian Loggy in 7th place.
And of course, some of these new to their cars, new to the championship, new to the circuit to a degree, certainly in machinery of this calibre. And Mark Farmer there in that chrome blue and white Aston Martin in 4th place, having a really strong run at the moment. There's the Bentley starting, as you said, to ease away. Rick Parfitt just bedding himself in gradually, and up and down the grid, everybody so aware of how treacherous this is. This is a very quick circuit, and it's got minimal runoff area. It's a proper old school track. You're going really quickly. If you get into trouble, there's not much saving it here, and everybody's very well aware of that.
Yeah, it's a place that can bite you, isn't it? And as you say, limited runoff. There in 2nd place then is Rick Parfitt, musician in his own right, son of the late Rick Parfitt of Status Quo fame, and a very successful Ginetta racer Rick has been before stepping up into GT racing. There the battle is on for 3rd place. Liam Griffin heading down towards Lodge Corner. Mark Farmer behind him, but coming under attack, isn't he? Because Harry Gottsacker there, racing here for the first time, showing good pace in the Ginetta, number 69, that he will share with Nathan Freak. This is Liam Griffin at work going down towards Old Hall Corner. Grabs 5th gear, then he has to stand on the brakes, turn in, find the grip level, 3rd gear for Old Hall Corner. Got the track map on the windscreen just in case he needs to remind himself which way the road goes. He's been round the Island Bend circuit many times. He's not done too many races on the full circuit in recent days, but he's getting himself up to speed now and actually getting away, or trying to, as behind him Mark Farmer now he's trying to fend off the charging Ginetta of Harry Gottsacker.
It's going to be interesting to see how this GT3 version of the Ginetta fares. Last year was very much a toe in the water with the factory cars. This year undoubtedly they'll have done development. The GT4 class you can easily see being won by a Ginetta here at Oulton Park in almost any conditions. It really suits the car's balance, its size, its speed. GT3 cars, you say Harry Gottsacker in 5th position, really pressing Mark Farmer. So the gap now out to 7.5 seconds. It was 5 and a bit after the first lap, and John Minshaw really, well, there are 2 ways of looking at this. You just keep pressing on at the speed you're doing, you're comfortable with it, and just keep building that advantage, or you've got the chance to just rein things in a little bit if you need to. If the rain increases, you know, again, he might have a little skatey off-track moment, so he's got to be cautious.
These conditions also helping the GT4 brigade, because they're staying closer to GT3 as their challenge is made, heading down towards Hislops up the inside, trying to go 72 Adam Ballon. It didn't work. Now there, number 62, Will Moore, having lost bodywork, remember, early on, he and Will Phillips, we understand, made contact, and their incident is under investigation. Yes. So drama in GT4 early in the race, but there, turning through Druids, number 100 is the GT4 leader, Sandy Mitchell, and getting away, the Black Bull Garage 59 McLaren with a pretty healthy advantage at the moment, as the race leader, John Minshaw, has now done 2 laps. At the end of lap 1, it was 5 seconds. It's now 8.7 seconds, his advantage. He's storming away.
And again, you see the McLaren leading in GT4 now. That was the dominant force in GT4 for the second half of last season. It's another modern mid-engine supercar, whereas the Bentleys, the Aston Martins, a little bit older in terms of design, big front-engine supercars, and the Mercedes, again, that's a different balance of cars. So you've got these sort of big front-engine dinosaurs, if you like, and you know, the Ferrari, the Ferrari, the McLaren, and the Lamborghini, the mid-engined car with a little bit better balance. In these conditions, that might just be enough to tip the balance their way.
But all of these drivers running in this battle have got a couple of dramas, in a sense. One is that Oulton's not that wide, and the other is that even if you can find room to overtake, it is wet offline, so there's less traction. So at the moment, it's going to be a bit follow my leader, as they all hope the road starts to dry out a bit. But this, for largely the AM element of the entry, is really hard work.
Yeah, it really is, definitely so. I mean, and the irony is that when you get the more pro drivers in later in the day, the forecast is that the weather will be much better, in which case we'll have a very significantly faster race, because at the moment, for any driver, this is really tippy-toey stuff. Now, interesting you say that the stewards have notified that they are going to investigate contact between 62 and 42. That's 62, the Aston Martin that lost its bonnet. 42 is the other one of the Milan AMR cars, and those cars were third and fourth on the GT4 grid. So Aston Martin had the second row of the GT4 grid, and both cars under investigation for contact.
There, last year's GT4 champions, Graham Johnson and Mike Robinson. It's Graham Johnson at the wheel. And Jeff Kingston, who engineers this car, had a good day at Donington with a touring car win, because he's the man responsible for Tom Ingram's Toyota Avensis, so he's hoping for a really good weekend here. But they've got a bit of work to do in class at the moment, hustling on as they work their way now up towards the right-hander of Druids. The car ahead is 59, which is Dean McDonald in the McLaren, but they've still got 52 minutes of the race to go. A lot can yet happen. Driving standards flag has been offered up to number 62, Will Moore. And they're the race leaders, pouring their way through Cascade. So Will Moore, for his incident potentially earlier on, has been given a driving standards flag. Now, of those trying to make progress, Derek Johnston, who started 11th, number 1 reigning champion, is up into 8th place. You'll see him in a moment at the back there, just going into shot. He's closing on this train of cars running 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. There he is, Derek Johnston through Shell, but of course it's then hard for him to make progress up through the pack. Parker Chase is the man behind and living up to his name, and there through Britons comes the pack, but Johnston in the TF Sport Aston Martin is almost up with them. The team, he's gained a place because that's a spin for Ian Loggy. Another local man, but Ian Loggy rotates.
And again, so easy to do, just a fractional whisper too much throttle, or a car rides the curb a little too much if you get in too deep, and suddenly you're facing the wrong direction, looking at lots of oncoming traffic.
Lee Mole goes through in the Mercedes. It's another spectacular looking car, that. Is this gap coming down 2nd to 3rd? Not last time, but my eyes suggested it might have done, but they're old eyes. Out of Druids goes Liam Griffin in the Lamborghini, hustling on behind Rick Parfitt's Bentley. And this is the fight for 4th now. Mark Farmer, Harry Gottsacker and Lee Mole. And then charging on behind them now is Derek Johnson. He's going to be up with them before long. So Derek Johnson is chipping his way forward here.
Harry Gottsacker, with the orange flashes on the nose of the Ginetta, is actively looking for a way past Mark Farmer, and not metaphorically, he's actually looking to see where he could go around as well. And it seemed to me that as they were going up to the last couple of corners, trying out other lines to see how much grip there is under braking. If the driver in front of you defends in the middle to the right-hand side of the road going into the right-hander, and you're on the left, if you then find out there's not enough grip and you skate on a little bit, at least you're not going to hit him as you recover it. So he's definitely exploring opportunities here.
So Mark Farmer, who was a race winner last year with John Barnes, back for another season. John, former FPA champion and Caterham champion, will take that car over. Very quick driver. Into the race, incidentally, has come 24, Jack Mitchell. After his dramas on the grid, the car has been dispatched. It becomes a test session for race 2, but this is a proper battle for position now, isn't it? Mark Farmer then 4th, Harry Gottsacker behind him. But these, as Martin has made the point, are big beasts, and he can't yet find a way through. So it's Aston Martin versus Ginetta. There's the 2nd place Bentley coming over the brow. Liam Griffin 3rd, and then side by side almost down towards Hislops for 4th place. Harry Gottsacker really is on his toes here, trying to force a mistake out of Mark Farmer, who goes deep into Hislops. And there, Gottsacker surges up the inside into Knickerbrook. There's a massive intake of breath. They get away with it. They scrabble out wide. Lee Mole thinks about making a move. Maybe if that were the last lap of race 2, they'd have been a bit more committed, but there was an element of discretion in that.
Lee Mole is at 3rd slip there. It could all fall into his hands, but he's got to let it play out in front of him, because if he sticks his nose in when Gottsacker's had a lunge, Gottsacker may not know he's there, and it's the easiest thing to make tiny contact, and off he goes. So Harry Gottsacker, you could hear as they came out to Knickerbrook, you could hear the Ginetta spinning up its wheels as he drilled the throttle, really trying to get on the gas early. They come past the start-finish line again, avoiding that slippery patch, and right, again, playing it straight down the middle of the road, Mark Farmer, in that chrome blue and white Aston Martin. If you put the car in the middle, it's a long way round anywhere here to get outside you.
So great racing going on here at Oulton Park. Round 1 of the British GT Championship for 2017. The GT3 cars up front, and you're looking at the battle now for 4th place. Mark Farmer in the blue and white Aston Martin versus Harry Gottsacker. New to Oulton Park in the orange and white Ginetta there behind him. Next in the queue is Lee Mole in the Mercedes, waiting for it to end in tears. And Derek Johnston, reigning champion, is chipping away. Now, Why was he at the back of the GT3 group? Answer, in qualifying, he tangled with another car, didn't get a lap time in. Who was the driver of the other car? Lee Mole, who was the man ahead of him, and the man he is catching.
Interestingly, fastest lap of the race now being set by John Minshaw, the race leader, at 1 minute 49.4. Nobody else lower than a 50.3. So he's over almost a second quicker. And again, you know, looked inside last time, looked outside this time because Mark Farmer was defending the inside. So Harry Gottsaka is really pushing hard.
You can tell Harry Gottsaka hasn't raced here much before because no one's told him where you can't overtake, so you're going to try everywhere. He's definitely got the pace, hasn't he, as they come up through Water Tower up towards Druids now. Mark Farmer moves across and takes the line, so Harry Gottsaka needs a good run out of Druids and try and slingshot up the inside going down towards Lodge. A quick check in his mirror proves that Lee Mole is in pursuit of him. He looks to the inside line, he's offline, he's got to be oh so brave to do that. He just cannot commit to it because you've got to get the car slowed down, especially offline where it's greasy. And here they come out of Dearling, 46 minutes to go. Lee Mole is the man, yeah, absolutely. He's got the inside line then for Old Hall Corner as they head down towards the right-hander. Inside line for the Mercedes, job done. Great move by Lee Mole.
And that was a little bit of the advantage of being last in the train. You can see a gap opening up, and he knew the track well enough to know I can go out of Dearling and go all the long way around the outside, and if I'm only half level, I've got the inside line into the next right-hander.
So Harry Gottsaka does all the hard work and loses a place. Up one goes Lee Mole.
Well, that will help his frustration levels enormously, obviously. Let's take a look at our GT4 leader. It is still the McLaren out front, but look, the margin is tiny. The orange-coloured Ginetta right behind, so that's 59.501. They're first and second in the GT4 class. So Sandy Mitchell.
Sandy Mitchell's up the road, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's the 59D McDonald McLaren, yeah.
That's exactly right.
Coming through. And now...
Identical cars. Who does that these days?
Exactly. Graham Johnson having a good go, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
In the Dayglow Ginetta. Drivers that have come out of club level Ginetta and Clio racing, Graham Johnson and Mike Robinson, they worked together, they raced together, they were the GT4 champions last year, but they too are mired in traffic at the moment, struggling to make progress and also coming under attack, are they not? Because behind you've got number 29 hustling on, that being Marcus Hogarth in the McLaren he shares with Matty Graham. Here up the inside tries to go Graham Johnson, can't quite do it, slots back in as they go through Ireland Bend. Keep looking at the road to see whether it's drying out, but there's enough spray being kicked up there for wet tyres to still have to be the go even after the pit stops. Out of Shell Oil's corner they come, they're back on the power, they make the run up towards Britain's. We have had effectively the first 15 minutes of racing here at Oulton Park, but there's a lot more action to come as we head towards the pit stop window. It's round one of British GT and we'll be back here at Oulton Park for the rest of the race after the break.
Well, fantastic battle with Mark Farmer still hanging on to fourth position. Lee Mole all over the back of him now. And Harry Gottsaka in that black, white and orange Ginetta. He's now the man who's got the advantage until he gets caught by the reigning champion, Derek Johnston, in the number one Aston Martin. You keep getting glimpses of it in the back of the shot. And look from behind, there he is, the fourth of these cars. So Mark Farmer, the blue Aston Martin, blue and white, ahead of Lee Mole in the new Mercedes, or new for last year, replacing the Gullwing SLS. It's the Mercedes AMG GT. So a big old beast around these tracks. And the V12 Aston Martin, not exactly underwhelming in terms of power or performance either. You know, there's a lot of horsepower under your right foot in either of those cars.
And there, look, Lee Mole has a go to the inside. He thinks about it, but again, doesn't quite pay out for him. Mark Farmer staves off the challenge of the Mercedes as they work their way now through his lots once more. We are 8 laps in the book in the opening round of British GT for 2017 here at Oulton Park. The race being led by John Minshaw in the Demon Tweaks backed Barwell Run Lamborghini. But this is the battle for fourth place where Mark Farmer's blue and white Aston Martin is under huge pressure. Lee Mole in the red Mercedes, and there's some great battling going on in GT4 as well because Marcus Hogarth at 42, Will Phillips get together as they round Shell. They might not be as quick as the GT3 cars, but Martin, there is some great battling going on.
Yeah, and they're all bunched up behind this number 59 McLaren. Reigning champions, the 501 Ginetta with the orange colours right behind them. So when you get a slower car, maybe out of position, had a bit of a quicker run in qualifying and not really feeling the love in these tricky conditions, that's what produces close racing, and the McLaren goes the long way.
Elbows out, but it worked, didn't it? Marcus Hogarth, who's always been a feisty racer, sorts himself out around the outside, and great action going on in GT4. It's a category that's been a bit of a slow burner, but it has built and built and built, and off the road has gone Lee Mole by the look of it. He's found the tyres on the inside of Shell Oils, and Lee Mole off the road. That would have started at Island Bend, won't it? Potentially having just run wide and getting onto that wet grass, and racing car means you're a passenger.
Now he had Mark Farmer close behind him. Maybe one of either Farmer or Gottsacker had a little look at him as well. We'll have to try and pick that up. But there is Harry Gottsacker behind Mark Farmer. Mark Farmer, car number 11, the blue and white Aston Martin.
Yeah, Mole had got past Gottsacker, he was looking for a way past the Aston. It may have been in his efforts to get by the Aston Martin that it all went pear-shaped. We'll see. There's the race leader, meantime, John Minshaw, who last lap through did the fastest lap of the race, so proof that the road is starting to dry.
Well, he keeps lapping faster and faster. I wonder whether that's the road or whether it's the car. 19 is off.
Parker Chase.
Yeah, Parker Chase. Didn't look to be damaged, so again that might just be a slithery runoff onto the grass. There are a couple of places where you can go grass cutting without hitting anything solid. Not many, not many. Leader in traffic as well. Now this is where we see exactly the cut of John Minshaw's jib. He grew up racing at Oulton Park. As we said, the family live just up the road. It's very much his favourite circuit. And as he comes into traffic, he's the one who has to do the hard work. He's got to kick the door down with every single back marker. And then they realise quicker cars are coming. And in these conditions, they might have their hands full not watching for blue flags particularly.
But he's 18 seconds up the road. It's a massive advantage. And there, Harry Gottsacker pulls out to have a go at Mark Farmer. Is he heading to a yellow flag zone, though? That might just go against him. He can't find a way through. The Aston Martin hangs on to the place. This is where a lap ago, Lee Mole ran wide and went off the road. And the car, I think, has left the scene of the crime. Now, they worked their way through Shell, just the two this lap, not the three. Let's see if we can piece together what happened a lap ago. We saw Lee Mole heading off into the tyres. So it was Mark Farmer ahead. Lee Mole had a look up the inside, turned in, got on the wet bit, ran out of road, onto the grass, held his breath, said his prayers, and headed for the tyres.
Because those tyres come up at you very quickly on wet grass. I was thinking maybe he'd be around the outside, but in fact he hadn't even got to there. He'd backed out of that, and still the car got away.
Battle on, Mark Farmer versus Harry Gottsacker, Aston Martin versus Ginetta. The boss of Ginetta, Lawrence Tomlinson, here to cheer on all his customers. And there is Lee Mole, he's back in the race. Now, did he go a lap down? Yes, he did. He's lost a lap against the race leader, so that really puts him and Ryan Ratcliffe, his co-driver, out of contention in the AMDtuning.com car. Another team with dual programme this weekend. Sean Hollenby's squad have been at Donington for touring cars, now at Oulton for GT. There, Liam Griffin heads down towards Lodge. Liam Griffin's last lap was 49.6. He's being caught fractionally by Mark Farmer because Mark's having to really put some work in here to fend off Gottsacker. They're just creeping a bit closer to the third place Lamborghini.
And Harry Gottsacker in the GT4, the fastest lap. Now going around the outside, Will Phillips raced in a Ginetta last year, first time out in the Aston Martin then, and underneath him comes the Ginetta. So a battle of a car that he used to drive versus his new team. Will Phillips in 5th position in the GT4 class. And that's the number 42 car. And the McLaren right in front of him. And again, this is this long queue that is behind the number 59 car. So 59, where did he start on the grid?
18th.
Yeah, so that's the Black Bull car, Aka Rabinda. And queue is growing behind him. We talked right at the beginning how when the track is starting to get a little less wet, the runoff areas, the areas you need to drive around another car are significantly more wet and less grippy, and that makes it even harder to overtake, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
We're also heading towards the pit stop window. Everybody must make a pit stop. Every team has to do a driver change, and that comes shortly between the 25th and the 35th minute of the race. Now look in the background, race leader John Minshaw carving his way through traffic, but here he's got a whole battle pack to get through, hasn't he? And all of these drivers are busy fighting. They don't really want to compromise their own race by lifting off too much and letting the leader through. So John Minshaw gets past the Ginetta of Graham Johnson, and look, right ahead of him, diving up the inside in 42, there goes Will Phillips, and they touch right ahead of the leader.
Yes, and the leader finds his way around. Of course, he's got straight line horsepower. He gets through. The GT4 cars might be braking a little deeper into the corner. They've got less aero, but less weight to carry. However, John Minshaw making a really good fist of that. He gets his way through, and then he clears the number 59 McLaren as well. And actually, the 59 car just starting to creep away a little bit now. McDonald finding a bit more confidence in the car, perhaps, as he moves the darker car away from the battle behind. Alternatively, of course, the battle behind, they're starting to tangle each other up and hold each other up, and that's allowing 59 to pull away.
I'm impressed with the way John Minshaw got through the traffic, though, there. And off the road has gone the Nissan 54, that is, with Tim Eakin at the wheel. It's another good shape to have on the grid, and at Cascades, the Nissan 370 run by Bob Neville's RJN team has rotated, and he should be good to get going from there once he's fired it up, which he does, and so Tim Eakin gets going now. Another team developing nicely in the GT4 category, so he's back in the race. Let's try and see what Tim Eakin did, because he came charging down out of Old Hall through Cascades, and we'll have a look in a moment at the incident for him, as there's Liam Griffin through traffic. Right, find a Nissan, he comes into Cascades on the back of the Lamborghini. His braking area is not quite the same as a GT3 car, and look how close Mark Farmer came to disaster.
Yikes.
And Derek Johnston up the inside of Gottsacker, and he might have got 2 places out of that as well. Let's see at the end of the lap, but that was a big brown trouser moment for Mark Farmer, that wasn't it, as he almost staved into the traffic.
No kidding. You saw that the Nissan there just got in a little too deep at the bottom of the hill and had to really get extra hard on the brakes and spun around. So all McLaren battle now for, what is this, 4th place in the GT4 class.
And Derek Johnson, Martin, just to confirm, did get those 2 places. You're absolutely right. He's just gone across the timing line. So Derek Johnston, he's doing very well out of all of this, because the bulk of his work is being done by other people committing harry-carry.
He's now up to 4th place, so Derek Johnson having a very good race forward. A change here. Will Phillips now has got free of the first of the McLarens, or the second of the McLarens in the queue, and the first one he got to. So now he's leapfrogged 2 places in a lap, and that is ahead of steam. He's come up behind the dark McLaren with speed gone by. So Will Phillips, it looks as though, it must feel to him as though the track is now starting to come into a sweet spot for that GT4 Aston Martin.
So he's picking them off. Now Derek Johnston is up, as we say, into 4th place, but he's still 24 seconds behind the race leader, so there's a lot of work to do, but...
Don't get any fewer points.
Well, you never know, I was about to say, whether there's a safety car on the way. We've got 35 minutes of the race to go, so anything can yet happen. Pit window is open now.
Now, 2 laps ago, half the cars...
McLaren's all at strife there. Marcus Haggarth is going off the road. He tried the inside line, realised it wasn't going to happen, and then made his own line through his lops, and it sort of worked for him, that.
Pick a line, any line. He didn't gain an advantage overtaking anybody. There's Derek Johnson, black and white MSW number 1 car, now right hard up behind Liam Griffin.
Yeah.
But he needs to pass now. He needs to get to Liam Griffin and go by him to continue his progress, otherwise he will get a little bit swallowed up.
If I were him, I'd pit now, get out of traffic and put Johnny Adam in. So the pit window is open. The only benefit for keeping your slower driver out longer, is to hope the track dries within another 10 minutes and you can do a tyre change as well. But if it's not drying sufficiently, come in now and put the faster driver in the car. But Derek Johnston, former Radical champion, GT champion last year, Ferrari racer of years past, going great guns. Pit lane is getting busy, look, as all the cars come in for these regulation stops. Derek Johnson is in, Liam Griffin is in. Race leaders have stayed out, I think I'm right in saying, have they not? Because, yes, Rick Parfitt in 2nd spot has carried on for another lap.
Yeah, Griffin and Johnson, the front runners, and most of that GT4 battle that we saw that Will Phillips has just cleared, they have all pitted now. Tyre change, yes, tyre change is going on. On our timing screen, a lap that's not quicker than your personal best comes up as yellow, and there have been very few green laps, which is a personal best lap. The leader keeps setting pink laps, which is outright fastest laps. John Minshaw is in GT 1.5 at the moment, not GT3. He's going so much clear of everybody else. But that is partly local knowledge, partly the fact that he breathes Oulton Park, and partly the fact that Lamborghini is in such a good place at the moment. His last lap at 1 minute 47.6. Nobody else got below a 48.8. So 1.2 seconds quicker just on that last lap alone.
If you're a GT3 car, your pit stop is 65 seconds. Pit in to pit out, including the driver change. GT4, it is 100 seconds. So the teams have to monitor this with the stopwatch. If you go too soon, if you don't hit the requisite time, you get a penalty. But also you've got to be mindful of where you release the car. Might be in traffic there. The pit lane is emptying. And in comes John Minshaw. So what he's hoping for is that when Phil Keane goes back into the race in that car after the pit stop, he's in clear track space.
Well, you can see his lollipop man about halfway down the pit lane. There was 3 garages in front and about 4 behind him that were clear or will clear. And there is the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini, the race leader on pit road. Rick Parfitt is now our de facto race leader as he stays out on board with the Bentley.
In this time.
Yeah, so... yes, of course, he didn't get to be the leader because he was 15 seconds or so further back down the road by the time he came in. The Lamborghini there on the right-hand side is halfway through its pit stop. Everybody has to nose in. It's the same at Snetterton as well. It's all in herringbone formation.
To save space in the pit lane, to make it a bit safer and stop people getting blocked in, but even so, it's pretty tight down there. So they've got now the Lamborghini in the hands of Sam Tordoff, first British GT Championship race, ahead of Johnny Adam, double champion. So Johnny versus Sam, this will be quite a fascinating duel between the two of them. The factory Aston Martin driver on the back of the runner-up in the BTCC last year. Away goes Phil Keane, and shortly Seb Morris will get behind the wheel of the Team Parker Bentley. Johnny Adam, who's had a bit of a frustrating World Endurance Championship weekend down the road, have a good start to British GT. He's got work to do to get past the Lambo.
But then, of course, at least he was driving an Aston Martin in GT3-ish spec all weekend, all yesterday. You know, on the other hand, Sam Tordoff, I don't know, you know, watching telly and having Easter eggs and sympathising with Fernando Alonso. I mean, you know, it's a slightly different preparation. So we'll see how that works out. Well, this is the portion of the race where everybody on the pit lane knows where they are and nobody outside the pit lane.
Now the Bentley, having rejoined, is up the road. There, John Barnes in the blue and white Aston goes back ahead of Johnny Adam. So on the pit stops, the Johnny Adam Derek Johnson car has lost one of the places it gained because John Barnes in the Mark Farmer car has gone back ahead on the pit stops.
So, were they just better and closer to the target time, or are we going to find out that they were in the pits a little too short? And it only has to be 100th of a second too short. You don't want to give away a second, even 1 single second, because it's very hard to make up. That can mean a place change.
Exactly.
But take 100th too little, and suddenly you're giving away 35 or 45 seconds to get a drive-through.
Short is short, doesn't matter by how much, does it really, because you will get the penalty. They're 14 back into the race. Now that was Richard Marsh. Gareth Howell, former touring car race winner, has taken that car over, and his Into Racing McLaren, Into Racing, another team with a busy programme from Porsche Racing. Seb Morris has been reeled in, though, look here, by Sam Tordoff. This is second and third and fourth as they work their way through his lot. John Barnes there, number 11, hustling on, and where behind is Johnny Adam. He's working his way through the traffic. But Seb Morris in the Bentley is coming under huge pressure, isn't he here? Look, because right with him is Sam Tordoff. Sam was a really good racer in the BTCC, firstly with MG, then with BMW, rear-wheel drive cars. Of course, he came out of the Porsche Carrera Cup, so he does know a bit about GT racing, even though it's a few years ago. And Johnny Adam looks to the inside of John Barnes, commits to it. He's up the inside. Can he slow it down? Yes, he can. That's why he's a factory Aston Martin driver. Finds half an opportunity, grabs it with both hands, but John Barnes comes back at him as they head over Deer Leap now. Over the timing line, side by side for fourth, side by side for second. Tordoff up the inside of Morris, can't quite do it, and Johnny Adam stays ahead of John Barnes. Great racing.
Yeah, 2 by 2 into the first corner in treacherous conditions, and just a lap or so ago we saw the Bentley really wickedly wagging its tail under Seb Morris. He's got to really dial himself in fast, as they all have in these first couple of laps. That's when you're more likely to force an error out of a driver who's not completely comfortable with the car. As it is, Morris hangs on in the lead of this queue, but he was very wide then. Here's our GT4 leader on pit road.
Tyre change as well, interestingly. So maybe that's another reason that some cars lost time in the pits. If they were doing a tyre change, it would have added to the pit stop time potentially. So the man on his toes here is Sam Tordoff on the back of a rather sideways Seb Morris, who is really having to hustle that car to fend them all off. And here comes Tordoff. He gets a run coming out of Britain's. He's on the outside line down towards Hislops. All of this is 13 seconds back from the race leader, and he goes through under braking. Wow. Tordoff then goes through, so he's up into second position. There's the third, Seb Morris, and Johnny Adam should make more progress, but remember that still way up the road is Phil Keane in the leading Lamborghini.
Well, Phil Keane can win by 2 laps. He won't get any more points than he does by winning by 100th of a second. Left rear is not going back on the GT4 leading McLaren. This is a nightmare. Is it not going on or not coming off? Whatever, it doesn't matter. That's the end of their chance of winning this race.
Because they're going to go a lap down to the overall leaders and also lose another great chunk of time to the class leaders. 27 minutes remain. Pit stop window is still open, but only for another couple of minutes or so. Now Sam Tordoff, look, released from behind the Bentley, is on a mission. Phil Keane has just done the fastest lap of the race, and he leads by 33 seconds. This is going to be a big test of Sam Tordoff. First time out in a Barwell Lamborghini in British GT against somebody who knows that car inside out. You've got to say that Phil Keane looks as though he's not quite home and dry, but he really is very well placed for a crushing win. But big disappointment here for the number 100 McLaren. They're still trying to sort out this left rear drama.
Yeah, got a real issue with that left rear hub. It's either stripped a thread or something, because the wheel's off, but they aren't putting it back on, and the Nissan running out very wide onto the grass as they try to stay out of the way of this battle for third position. Seb Morris in the big white Bentley, right behind him Johnny Adam and John Barnes, and Johnny Adam is inside and having a little look down to the chicane. Can't get through there, the run is just too short, but he's already trying to position the Bentley offline going in so he can do this, come alongside in on the way out and go around the nose of the Bentley, just as we saw from the Lamborghini. He moves up again in front of Seb Morris. They talked a lot about damage control. Finish with no damage, get some points in the rain. That's job done for the Bentley. So if they have to lose a couple of places, but they've still got all the wheels on their wagon, okay, it's not our circuit.
And of course, when we get to race 2, with hopefully different track conditions, it could be a different story altogether. It'll be a different looking grid in many ways, although the same car will start at pole position.
Drifting out very wide, the GT4 McLaren. Thought that was in the barriers there for a moment.
That's the traffic through though, so the road opens up for the quicker cars as they work their way now down through Lodge Corner, and still hustling on Johnny Adam then to try and get himself even further up the order. The lead gap is 34 seconds, it's going up. There is Johnny Adam then through in third place. So from the back of the group in the grid, he's trying to salvage as many points out of this as he can, but all it would take is one safety car to bunch everybody up, and it's a different race altogether.
Well, let's compare and contrast, shall we? Phil Keane's last lap, the race leader, 1 minute 45.6. Behind him, Sam Tordoff has just done the fastest lap for that car, a 1 minute 46.5. So still 9/10 of a second slower than the race leader in an identical Lamborghini run by the same team, different colour scheme. And in fact, Phil Keane's just set a new fastest race lap, a 1 minute 45.5 in the lead. So he's still got a second in hand every lap over his next closest pursuer. And everybody else in the 48s and 49s. So it's only the top 2 that are in the 45s and 6s. Next quickest car is the number 7 Team Parker Bentley, with Callum McLeod now setting that car's fastest lap at 1 minute 47.2. So he'll be closing in on them as the GT4 battle has really changed around since we lost the McLaren that leads. Now the race leader in the green highlights on the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini trying to find his way through this GT4 battle. Multi-car Ginetta battle, left, right and centre.
Brave stuff this from Phil Keane round the outside. There's just about room, and now he can floor the throttle and clear the traffic. 24 minutes of the race to go, and Phil Keane doing what a pro driver is here to do, go flat out, win the race for your co-driver.
Exactly right, but for the GT4 McLaren on the inside there, desperately trying to keep his speed up, but hold a tight line and not take a faster car off the race, out of the race.
we've had a new fastest lap of the race. Yeah. Sam Tordoff, welcome to GT Racing, yes. Sam. Now, okay, he's got a mountain to climb and he's wearing Wellington boots with which to do it, 33 seconds back, but fastest lap of the race, that is impressive. He's getting quicker and quicker and quicker all the while as he gets more familiar with the car. Coming over the timing line there, Martin Short in 88, behind him is 21. Now, that is Matt Griffin. We've not really talked about that car very much because Duncan Cameron struggled to make progress in part one, if you like. Matt Griffin is in 9th place here, but whenever you put Matt into a Ferrari, like the blue touch paper and stand back, he's just a joy to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is. And again, lots of experience this weekend as well. 3rd different championship he's racing in. And he is closed. Well, he is closing. He has closed Martin Short right down. Martin Short with this brand new to him and Richard Neary Mercedes, again, much too big a car for Oulton Park. You know, it's like having a Formula 5000 car here. It's just a big old beast, and they're not expecting to be on the top of the pile here.
He's about to go, potentially though, a spot down, isn't it? Because this is a genuine battle for 8th place. Martin Short, who first came into the championship with a TVL Cerberus a long time ago with Rob Bath, and now he's got Matt Griffin tucked up behind him. Matt, in fact, back in 2003 was what was then the GT Cup class within British GT champion with Patrick Pearce, and there is the race leader, Phil Keane then, who turns his way through Cascades. We have done 20 laps now. We've got 22 minutes of the race to go, and this has been a dominant display by John Minshaw, who did the first stint, and Phil Keane behind the wheel of a leading Lamborghini. But can they hang on in there for 22 more minutes? We'll find out after the break.
Phil Keane has seen his fastest lap taken away by Sam Tordoff, but the touring car racer over half a minute behind, and it's unlikely, unless there is a safety car for an incident, that he's going to be able to close that gap. 21 minutes at getting on for a minute and 3/4 a lap, or almost around there, means that we're going to get some 14, 15 laps in maximum. He's 30 seconds back. He needs to be 2 seconds a lap quicker, and at the moment, well, actually on the last lap he was 2.2 seconds a lap quicker. The chase might be on, but then the leader is in traffic and has been for the last couple of laps, so it might not be as clear cut as it looks.
So here at Oulton Park, we are in the opening round of British GT 2017, and we are looking at a masterclass in how to win a GT race from John Minshaw and Phil Keane, who is currently the man behind the wheel of this Lamborghini number 33, heading down through Dentons. This has been the car never headed, because John Minshaw was away like a robber's dog in the first stint, never headed, and Phil Keane has carried on the good work. David Anderson and Martin Haven trackside, and we're looking at battles going on behind where Sam Tordoff's Lamborghini runs second. It's a 1-2 for Barwell at the moment, with Lamborghini's first and second, and we've also got the battles raging on still in GT4, where there, number 59 McLaren turns its way through, the car that was started by Dean McDonald, now with Akhil Rabindra at the wheel of it, and 20 minutes of the race remain. Liam Griffin, nearest the camera, discusses the opening stint with Rick Parfitt in the garages. 3rd place, Johnny Adam going through shot. 4th is the Bentley there, you can see, which is now Seb Morris at the wheel, and 5th behind is the blue and white Aston Martin of John Barnes. Very treacherous track conditions here. It is drying a little, but still, in one of these big, powerful supercars, life out there is pretty tough.
Well, what they could have done with here is a bit of a breeze. You can see the wipers are still on the Bentley, because these big, wide, wet weather tyres, like the groove tyres on your car, move the water out of the way. They squirt it up in the air, but because there's no wind to blow it away, it just settles straight back on the track. So the track remains very wet, 3 wide. The Mercedes of Martin Short in the middle of the frame, and trying to hang on to 8th position. They go by the number 62 GT4 class Aston Martin. That car had a little contact early on from 3rd on the GT4 grid, and on board with the Bentley, finding its way through traffic as well. Well, there you can see the Mercedes of Martin Short, Liam Griffin right behind in the only Ferrari in the race, the number 21 Ferrari.
If Matt thought this was going to be an easy person to pass, meet Martin Short, because Martin knows every trick in the book, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Martin's been in the British GT Championship for the better part of 20 years. We were just talking to him earlier, and I'd forgotten the server. I said, when was the Speed 6? 2000.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a long old time at this game.
He also ran the Noble for a time, didn't he?
Yep.
In the championship with the Belgian lady Fanny Duchateau at the wheel of it, going back about 15 years or so. But Matt Griffin in the Ferrari wiper on, turning his way now through Druids as they head for the 22nd time down towards Lodge Corner. Mercedes versus Ferrari. This is the beauty of GT3 racing: different shapes, different sizes, and a different engine sound.
And a different balance to the car in different track conditions and on different circuits as well. That's one of the great things. Not only is there a variety of looks, you get a variety of performance. Around the outside comes the Ferrari. He got the traction really nicely out of Dearly, and that was as clear cut as you like. And Martin Short knew it was coming. The moment that Ferrari started to accelerate past his right-hand mirror, went, okay, done deal, it's all yours.
So Griff goes through and now release. Let's see what he can do, because the next target is Nathan Freak, who is effectively 7 seconds up the road. So he's chasing the Ginetta that Harry Gottsacker started. That, if you cast your mind back, is the orange and white one that was involved in the 4th place fight earlier. Matt Griffin then storms away. Well, let's see what he can do. Next target up the road, 7 seconds. He's got 17 minutes in which to hunt him down, and he will perhaps get there within the next 7 or 8 laps. The team manager of number 62, the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin, Matt Nicol-Jones and Will Moore's car, team manager to Race Control. You see how much drier the road is now over the course of the hour there at Britain's, but there's still, Martin, only one line.
Yes, and that's the problem for the attacking driver. There is the number 62 Aston Martin. Now, they were handed a black and white driving standards flag. Yeah, there's most of it. Yes. There's the bits that didn't fly off. They had contact on the opening lap with the number 42 Aston Martin, with which they shared the 3rd row, got a driving standards flag. Now, that may not have been related to that incident. That may have been related to cutting a chicane or whatever, and if he's continuing to do so, the team may have been told that this is what the problem is. It's the exceeding track limits thing that we're so familiar with in FIA racing.
But the team manager to Race Control could also be pit stop related.
Yes.
So we'll keep monitoring this story. For the moment, number 62 soldiers on in a very good 11th place. So despite the damage, Matt Nicol-Jones is at the wheel of the car. Matt, if you cast your mind back, was hugely successful in Ginetta racing in the days of the G20, and has never really had the budget to progress much further. But in GT racing, he's proved to be very competitive indeed.
And in fact, he is our GT4 leader. So if there is a penalty there, like the McLaren that lost it in the pit stops, they too might lose the lead in GT4. So we lost 100 McLaren. It is back out again with Martin it is back out, but yes, it is out again with Kieran Haggerty at the wheel, ahead of Martin Plowman. But that car lost what looked like a very comfortable lead in GT4. Matt Nicol-Jones leads. So let's get to GT4. In second position is the 72 McLaren of Adam Ballon and Adam McKay. And then in 3rd place in class is the number 55 Ginetta, and that is Stuart Middleton and Will Chagutha's Ginetta G55. That's an all-silver pairing as well.
Yeah, they were the 2 rivals in Ginetta Junior racing last year. They were the top 2. Will Chagutha was the champion. Stuart Middleton was his runner-up. Now, number 62, we've been talking about, there it is, a stop-go penalty of 18 seconds is coming his way for being 18 seconds short on the pit stop. So what you lose in the pits, you have to make up with a stop-go. But how do you get it wrong by 18 seconds? Martin queries.
What's the difference between 65 and 100? That's not even 18, so they haven't even gone with they've just, right, we're done, go.
It's a right mess is what that is, isn't it? And it's ruined the race for them, because an 18-second stop-go penalty is a much longer pit stop, because you've got your drive time in and your drive time out. So that is, wow, well, that takes them out of the game completely.
Well, you know, a drive-through is a sort of 35-second penalty anyway on a competitive lap time, so yeah.
And there you've got behind the McLaren 72, which is going to gain the place anyway. So Adam Mackay at the wheel of it, turning his way down through Lodge Corner. GT4 is about to change as the message gets through to Matt Nicol-Jones. And somebody's going to hang their head in shame, aren't they? As now 72 comes through to take over the class lead.
New team to the championship as well, Track Club running that car. So Adam Ballon, Adam McKay take the lead of the GT4 class. Matt Nicol-Jones brings 62 in for what will seem like about an hour and a half. Well, you know what it's like when you've been on the motorway, sitting there at the speed limit, and then you come up onto a slip road and you're suddenly into 30 miles an hour. It feels like you're stationary. Well, imagine what that feels like when you've been coming a little faster around here than the national average. So, yeah, tough times for them. And third place in, now up to second place in GT4 is 501. The Optimum Motorsport car, Graham Johnson and Mike Robinson, that Dayglow colour car. There's 100, the McLaren that was our race leader. So GT4 is a bit of a tale of what might have been, a bit of a tale of woe at the moment, isn't it, for front runners varied. And in fact, 62 came out from the pit lane right behind 100, our two big, quote, losers in the GT4 class, nose to tail.
There, Kelvin Fletcher, Emmerdale actor, touring car racer last year, having his first go in British GT with Tim Eakin in the Ultratech Racing Team RJN Nissan 370. Another very distinctive shape, but it's great to have the variety in GT4. And the team manager of the leading GT4 car is going to race control now. We've just talked about Adam Ballon and Adam McKay getting the class lead, but their team manager is heading to race control. The story may not be done yet, as there Matt Griffin has got past Nathan Freak, so that is now 7th place we've had the change for. GT3 is changing on the track. GT4 is potentially changing again because of penalties and pit stop dramas.
Dear, this is the Monaco Grand Prix that nobody wanted to win again, isn't it? And it was wet. Now then, oh, lots of smoke from Lee Mole. Is that a right front tyre starting to go down, a tyre rub there, or is that damage? Now, we haven't seen much of him since he went off into the tyres. Maybe that's just the aero pushing the bodywork back on the tyre.
It's a lap down, of course, that car. Ryan Ratcliffe took it over, so he's getting out of the way of the quicker ones. But Matt Griffin, look, gone. Storms his way, catches up to Nathan Freak, gets past him and goes. Ryan Ratcliffe, former Ginetta racer, he is now on the tail, whoops, deep into his lops, and up the escape road there goes 111. That is the Mike Simpson Ginetta. Mike having taken over from Anna Walewska, so he's at the wheel of it, goes through the escape road. And where is he in the order? That car?
Hard to tell because so many of the front runners in GT4 have already been taken up. I think he was 4th in the GT4 class.
Right, there or thereabouts is a phrase that will do for the moment.
In the top 6.
Yes, quite. There, however, is Sam Tornoff, who is still second and 36 seconds back. He ain't going to catch his teammate, but could he be caught by Johnny Adam? Yes, that gap is now 2.6 seconds, 11 minutes to go. It's possible.
Last lap, Johnny Adam was 0.4 of a second quicker only, but that was the lap in which he got he got clear of Seth Morris, and the leader has set another fastest race lap.
Now there is Johnny Adam in number 1. He's just got past Matt Nicol-Jones, who has rejoined, very cross, I'm sure, after that stop-go penalty. And
in front of him is the Black Bull McLaren that was leading before the pit stops in the GT4 class, the race that nobody wanted to win.
GT4. Yes. So out of the way goes the McLaren, and Johnny Adams storms past, as you would expect from a faster GT3 car. But he can see the man he's chasing now. So what was the gap at the start of the lap? 2.6 seconds.
Yeah.
We're on board here with Seb Morris.
And such a great view of what this track looks like. There are so many blind brows here. The driver's eye line is actually probably lower than this. You can barely see over the bonnet scoops and over the dashboard. You sit the weight as low in the car as you can. So you're actually getting a better driver's eye view than the driver's eye actually gets from this camera. And again, look, as you start to come up here towards Druid, you come under the bridge, completely blind. If there's someone spinning in the middle of the road there on the opening laps, you've got no chance. Up to the double right-hander at Druids. And again, as you clear here, another blind brow over the top into a braking area where the track drops down severely away to the right-hand side. Again, you can't see where you're going for most of the lap here.
John Barnes hustling on there in the Aston Martin, 5th he is. Number 72 McLaren also gets a stop-go penalty, but it's only 1.5 seconds for too short a pit stop. It's not as bad as 18 seconds, but who is that going to give the class lead to? Potentially it will go the way of HHC Motorsport and Stuart Middleton and Will Tregurtha's Ginetta. So the current GT4 leaders have to serve a stop-go. And HHC, which has done great things in BRDC F4, great things in all the other Ginetta categories, first time out in GT4. The
Don't
Harrogate
even go
team.
there.
Right, sentence stops. The sentence stops.
Race hasn't finished.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought.
So there's the current leader, set for a stop-go penalty.
Yes. Oh dear, oh dear. So that's two McLarens that have lost GT4. One through no fault of the driver or the team, particularly with that seized wheel nut on the 100 car, and 72 a second and a half too short. You know, well, it's such a cliche. Every second counts in motorsport, and no more so than when you're timing your pit stops. You really have to be on the ball.
So there'll be a few people going up and down the pit lane in a few moments' time, looking for a new job, potentially with a different team. Have stopwatch, but it doesn't work very well. So you're riding here with Seb Morris. He is fourth. He will start the next race on pole position. But this has all been about Lamborghini. Those cars, and especially the Demon Tweaks car, has looked so good. The road is getting drier here at Oulton Park. It is brightening up. So 55. This is going to be the car that inherits the lead. That much we can at least vouchsafe, with 8 minutes to go. Will Tregurtha started, last year's Ginetta Junior champion. There is 72 rejoining after its stop-go. This is going to be touch and go. He's still got quite a bit of pit lane to go down, but where is the Ginetta?
And he'll be going very slow.
Yeah.
And there's the Ginetta, second car in the shot. Here we come. Okay, so the McLaren is up to speed. Through goes Johnny Adam, and that might help the Ginetta perversely, because the McLaren is soon going to find that there's a very fast approaching Aston Martin in his mirrors, but there was no lead change.
Indeed so. So it is the McLaren then that has hung on to the advantage. It had enough of a gap. So there is the McLaren into Island Bend, cut away. There are two GT3 cars between it. I don't think the Ginetta's going to get there in time, I'm afraid to say, because the gap is just too great. A second and a half wasn't too much of a problem in terms of the stop-go penalty. So, in fairness to HHC, in fairness to Track Club running the Adams, Ballon and Mackay, it is Track Club that will hang on. There it is, to the class lead, but they got away with that.
Black and white flag for car number 111. That's one of our GT4 Ginettas. Mike Simpson being told to obey track limits.
Having been up the escape road at Hislop's a lap or two ago, I suspect that was part of it.
Might well be.
Well, Johnny Adam is through. Still hustling on behind Sam Tordoff. There is Seb Morris in fourth. And as the Bentley powers uphill, we're getting to the pointy end of this race now, because we are into the final 7 minutes. It is still Phil Keane who leads the way at Oulton Park, and we shall find out whether it's going to be a win in round one when we head back to Cheshire for the final few laps here right after the break.
Lamborghini 1-2, Phil Keane ahead of Sam Tordoff. It could be a very good start to the season for the Barwell Automotive team. Third place Johnny Adam, potentially the fly in the ointment. 3.5 seconds behind Tordoff last lap. He was only 1/10 of a second quicker. Sam Tordoff in that second Lamborghini knows the danger. And behind Johnny Adam is Seb Morris in the Bentley, and then John Barnes in 5th position. So Johnny Adam heads away from us, chasing down the second place Lamborghini. It looks that time is against him. Seb Morris might become more of a threat as the track continues to dry.
Five minutes to go in round one of the British GT Championship for 2017, and this has been a race dominated by Lamborghini, but the attention now is on this car, number one Aston Martin of reigning champions Derek Johnston and Johnny Adam, to see whether they can hunt down the Lamborghini of Sam Tordoff ahead. But if anything, the gap has just been growing a little bit, possibly because of traffic over the last few laps. It looks as though we're on for a Lamborghini 1-2. Phil Keane and John Minshaw lead the way. Liam Griffin and Sam Tordoff run second.
Really interesting, the last head-on shot we had of them coming down to the Knickerbrook chicane. The Bentley moved clearly offline, searching for a bit of wet road to cool the tyres down. Seb Morris is feeling that the rubber has now turned to jelly under him. The tyres are overheating. There is a dry line. That's going to make overtaking even harder, because when you move off it, then you will have much less grip and almost no wet weather tread left on your tyre. Johnny Adam there in a black and white car in third place. Fastest race lap last time round. number 21 Ferrari, the green and white car of Matt Griffin. So quicker than any of the Lamborghinis have done, a 1 minute 43.4, 4 tenths quicker than the leader has achieved. Headlamps flashing, suddenly Seb Morris has got the flashes going, but Johnny Adam in the Aston Martin in front is hardly holding him up, is he?
No, but I just wonder whether, because we didn't see everybody's pit stop, whether some did go onto slicks and now the road is just about dry enough for them to work, and those cars are starting to come into their own. It's too little too late, arguably, but it might be that that's something to do with all of this. Tordoff has gone through. There is Johnny Adam, but he's certainly dropped away, hasn't he, from the second place Lamborghini, having been closing steadily.
You would definitely have thought that a slick tyre would have worked long before you can actually see a dry road like we have now. I'm not sure anybody gambled. It was just 10-15 minutes too early really to try it out then, and we haven't seen anybody making meteoric progress either. I think Matt Griffin has just got the Ferrari under him, but suddenly the Bentley, that's why he was flashing, because he's now all over the back of Johnny Adams' Aston Martin.
So this is for third with 3 minutes to go as they work their way up Clay Hill. It's a great circuit, Oulton Park, but it is not that easy to overtake around it because it's pretty narrow. They go under the footbridge then now, heading up past the water tower. Road bears left, you can see it is drying. And now, if they are still on the wets from earlier on a dry road, they'll be really struggling. So, of course, Johnny Adams had to work his tyres a lot harder to come through, and Derek Johnston before him. So maybe his are in a worse state than those on the Bentley, which is starting to come good and gain the pace back again. 2 3/4 minutes to go. Johnny Adam is hanging on to third place, but he might be on borrowed time here as they come over the line. Tordoff's getting away up the road. Who is going to be the last crew on the podium?
Well, Seb Morris and the Bentley, more in hope than anticipation, I think, flashing the headlamps at Johnny Adam. If Johnny Adam gets caught out by flashing headlamps, then the real Johnny Adam is locked in a toilet somewhere and the fake Johnny Adam is at the wheel. That's not going to happen. But you do everything as a driver. You try any trick to distract the man in front, because if he just loses his focus for a fraction, then he can miss a braking point and just go a little deep into a corner, and suddenly the gap has opened up. Johnny Adam, though, he is a safe pair of hands, isn't he? He should be on the podium.
And even if he can't catch Tordoff, he knows that the job then shifts to fending off the Bentley, so he just has to keep him at bay. If third place is going to be third place, then fair be. At least it's points banked and they can keep the car for race 2. But Matt Griffin is just charging along, going faster and faster and faster. As Martin said, he's done the fastest lap of the race, but he's doing absolute best in the sectors when he has a clear road ahead of him.
Well, he's done another faster lap, 1 minute 42.7. The fastest anybody else has gone has been a 43.8, so 1.1 seconds quicker than anyone. If it's dry, that Ferrari is straight into dark horse territory.
Dark prancing horse, yes. The race leader is on his last lap as Ryan Ratcliffe in the red Mercedes tries to hustle his way up with Matt Nicol-Jones. They're turning their way through shell number 100 there, badly delayed early on, Kieran Haggerty, but there is Phil Keane, who is halfway around what's going to be the last lap of round 1 of British GT. If Phil and John watch this back, they'll find there was some great racing behind them, but they've been in splendid isolation up the road, haven't they, for the bulk of the hour. And as Mark Lemmer from Barwell looks on, it has been a great start to the championship for them. Here in traffic, flashing his lights, is Phil Keane as they work their way now up through Britain's, and he's heading towards Hislop's for the last time.
And part of it is having the balance in the car, part of it is the confidence in the driver, part of it is how they work in traffic. You've just seen him go past a Ginetta, now coming up to this GT4 Aston Martin, and he's going to have to work his way through him. Jan Jonk, the young Dane who comes into that team from Formula 3, will stay out of the way, try not to run off on the wet with precious little grip left on his tyres, just enough room for Phil Keane to squeeze through. A third of the lap left on his way to victory here in Oulton Park.
What a display, because this car is 37 seconds up the road. Phil could get out and push it from here virtually. He comes down towards Lodge Corner. Still, for some reason, Phil, an underrated talent, but he and John Minshaw make a great combination. Phil very successful in single-seaters and then into TVRs. Alan Minshaw with son John in the pit garage will watch Phil Keane bring home the Lamborghini to win round 1 of British GT at Oulton Park. Phil Keane and John Minshaw win for Barwell Motorsport. Lots of applause in the garage, great to see. and a fabulous result, and we'll wait and wait for this car to come home in second place. Mark Lemmer's Barwell Motorsport team opens its account in style because it's going to be a 1-2. This is the Sam Tordoff Liam Griffin entry. Sam Tordoff new to GT racing, but it won't be long before he's on that top step of the podium, I would venture to suggest, and he turns his way through Lodge Corner. At one point it looked like he might struggle to hang on to second. In the end he pulls away. So the next question is, who is going to be third? Because Johnny Adam is just going to make it across the line ahead of Seb Morris. The Aston Martin fends off the Bentley. There they go in this battle of British cars. Aston Martin ahead of Bentley. But it's a Lamborghini 1-2 at the end of an enthralling race, and we've had some great battles all the way down through the field as there. Callum McLeod has got Matt Griffin up behind him. Then this is a battle for 6th place with a corner to go. Ex-Formula 4 champion Callum McLeod is not necessarily going to hang on to it, because as they go across the line, Matt Griffin is absolutely alongside, and he's done it by 63 thousandths.
Wow.
Amazing.
What a chase from Matt Griffin. Phenomenal final performance. And the GT4 race that nobody wanted to win in the end, despite a penalty for too short a pit stop, but only a tiny one. It is going to go to the newcomers with the McLaren, the number 72 Track Club car of Adam Ballon and Adam McKay, claim victory in the GT4 class.
There over the line, Nathan Freak in the Ginetta that comes home in 8th place. 9th is going to go the way of Martin Short, and the top 10 already rounded out a lap down by the battered Mercedes. Ryan Ratcliffe bringing it home after Lee Mole had his dramas earlier on. Fastest lap of the race, Matt Griffin. We were saying in the course of the race what a star he was, and further proof. But take nothing away from Phil Keane and John Minshaw. They may not have had to fend people off or do lots of overtaking, but both of them had to get through traffic, read the race, read the road, read the track conditions, because they were always the pioneers coming across the track and the grip levels. So the celebrations have started, I think, down in the pit lane. Phil Keane brings the car into the pit lane. John Minshaw, a happy race winner. He's with Alex Le Guy.
Huge smiles down here in the Barwell garage. John Minshaw, you made a lightning start. You took the lead in the first lap. Talk us through it from your side.
Well, we knew we had a strong car. I mean, in FP2 on, I think it was Friday, it seemed such a long weekend, but I think Friday, we were pretty strong. Both Keeney and I were right at the top of the charts, and so we knew we had a really good car in the wet, but we didn't think it was going to be wet.
No.
And I think we thought that if it was dry, we were at the end of the Bentleys. It was theirs really on paper, but hey, it rained.
A fantastic car, but also a fantastic pairing. Phil Keane, often overlooked, now gold status. It's looking good for the year.
Yeah, Keeney should have a works drive. He's too good to be pedalling with me. I mean, he should be out there doing it in Europe.
Congratulations to the team. David, back to you.
Alex, thanks. I'd echo what John Minshaw says about Phil Keane. For some reason, Martin, he's not one of those fashionable drivers. Everyone says, yes, he's very good, but for some reason he doesn't get the coverage, he doesn't get the headlines like other British drivers have done.
Well, remember when Johnny Adam was in that position where we could clearly see, his light, but everybody else had it under a bushel. And I think John Minshaw does himself down as well then. Yeah, he drove a stunning stint. He set the groundwork for the victory, and Phil Keane carried the torch as we knew he would. Sam Tordoff makes it a 1-2 for Lamborghini and for Barwell Motorsport. Aston Martin, Bentley, Aston Martin 3-4-5. Matt Griffin racing up in the Ferrari to 6th ahead of Callum McLeod in the second Bentley. Nathan Freak, the better of the Ginettas in the GT3 spec, ahead of Martin Short and Ryan Radcliffe, who was a lap down after that off with the Mercedes that, who knows, might well have produced a podium. And then 11th on down, there is your GT4 class. McLaren end up with the win despite the penalty. Matt Nicol-Jones with his penalty dropped to 3rd position, ahead of Mike Robinson, Jan Jonk and Dave Pittard. And then Joe Osborne in the McLaren in 17th place, and the car with the delay, Kieran Haggerty bringing us across the line in the end, down in 26th position, with a race that was theirs to win at the midway point when they stopped for the penalties. And the number 24 car that blew a water hose on the grid did go out, and they are now ready for race 2. That's what everybody else will have to think about now. Lots of other racing going on here on the track here at Oulton Park. Let's take a look at the highlights of the first race, where it didn't get off well at all for the number 24 Aston Martin. Blew a water hose on the grid as if the track wasn't wet enough. Contact early on for number 62 GT4 Aston earned them a warning and some damage. And there you can see where that happened. And early on, very, very wet indeed. Even when you were trying to be cautious, it was all too easy to make an error. The Mercedes did continue to round out the top 10. Battles all the way down the order, and even in treacherous conditions. No safety car, no yellow flags for more than a lap or so. A couple of close calls, some very canny work in the pits, and a couple of pit lane disasters, particularly in the GT4 class, robbing potential front runners of podium finishes. In the end, in this condition, or in these conditions, to get through with no stoppages, remarkably good. A penalty for the 62 car after its damage, but the first win of the year, and that perhaps might be the most important thing they do this weekend for the Barwell Lamborghini. They claim victory. They have the points lead from here on in. Everyone else is chasing.
He's just done my top, so you don't use it against what he Number 62, do the job.
Row 8 is car number 990 Scott Jeff, and alongside him is car number 5 Jeff Smith. He actually qualified here. 1955 takes up the 8th row of the grid. Row 9 of the grid is car number 32 Dean Grace. Nice to see the double Legends champion back in racing, having had a break for the last couple of years. He has alongside car number 42, which is 32. 42 on row 9. Row 10 is race 87. Paul Bell.
Well done. Well done, mate. Did you get second?
The 11th row of the grid, car number 39, genuine driver Chris Bryant.
Yeah, queued it to go. Yes, queued it to go as soon as possible. No, we're going. No, I gave them go ahead 8.
Driving, of course, the GS Sport Aston Martin. In second place, Liam Griffin and Sam Tornoff. And the winners of the opening round of the 2017 British GT Championship, John Minshaw and Phil King. And we have one more GT3 preparing to join us. That's the GT3 AM winner, Richard Neary and Martin Short. And I think Benjamin's going to do the honours to the presentation. Benjamin Benjamin, who coordinates all this on behalf of...
To the victors of the spoils, because in British GT there is an overall podium, there are class podiums as well. Johnny Adam and Derek Johnston, their third overall, third in GT3, get the trophies and the Easter eggs.
And the Easter eggs, lovely time. Well done, very good. So yes, Lamborghini 1-2. Now there's quite a few drivers that would have predicted that Aston Martin third place, the reigning champions, scoring strongly in the first race weekend. And you can see the AM winners there, Richard Neary on the left and extreme left, and Martin Short to his left, our right. That's, well, see now, Easter egg, that success ballast, that
That's very true. That's very true.
They should be mandatorily forced to scoff it all now before a slap-up lunch, and then they'll be slower in the second race. They'll be like us, they'll have nodded off.
Because all the pro drivers will be staring at those thinking, what, I've never had one of these, I just eat salad. What's all this about?
Yeah, all I get is a Tag Heuer. I've got 3 Rolex Daytonas, nobody ever gave me an Easter egg.
You can get the barbecue going, that's not good for the Easter egg, but it's probably pretty welcome.
Could you wash your car as well, just to guarantee it's going to carry on raining? I know it's Bank Holiday Monday and everything, but that's above and beyond. Very good, I mean, full works.
I'll tell you, Oulton Park spectators, you know, we're a hardy bunch.
Hardy,
they know how to do it around here.
Yeah.
So the podium continues. We will have more action coming up because the first mini challenge race is heading to the grid. There, John Minshaw on the left, Phil Keane on the right as you look, and they are the winners of the opening round of British GT. John started his racing here quite a long time ago in the rough and tumble world of the what was then St Helens Ford XR Challenge for old Fiesta XR 2s, and now a very accomplished GT race. So let's catch up on the GT4 winners. They're with Alex.
Yep, down here with the 2 Adams from Track Club. It seems that Lady Luck was on your side during that race. Talk us through it.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, Adam got a perfect start, put the car in P3 for his first stint. So, you know, after that, the work was done, really. It was just a case of pushing on, trying to build a lead. And then when we found out we had a pit stop penalty, it was kind of a bit heartbreaking. I thought that was it, but we managed to retain the lead and come back out and stretch our legs again. So, you know, it was literally by the end a case of preserving the tyres, which we managed to do. So it's a good race.
Your penalty was a bit of a heart in the throat moment. Adam, you made a brilliant start. It was horrifically bad visibility, wasn't it?
Yeah, I must admit, it took me by surprise. It was wet, but then when the spray came up, it was like, oh my God, I can see literally nothing. But yeah, managed to stay safe and stay out of trouble, and that got me into P3.
Yeah, very nicely done. So looking ahead to race 2?
I think race 2 will be a bit more difficult. You know, we've got a lot more to do. It's looking like it's going to be dry as well, so it'll be a bit more difficult, but we'll see how it goes. It's our first weekend in the championship, so you know, we're just learning.
Great stuff. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Alex. Right, a completely different type of racing comes up next. From 1 hour of GT to 13 minutes after we've had 2 green flag laps of 1 mate racing, because this is the first race for the mini challenge. It is a full entry, and it's an intriguing one as well, because you've got regulars like David Grady and Charlie Butler Henderson who win in these cars. You've got people like Jeff Smith, who was racing in the British Touring Car Championship. He qualified here on Saturday. He then went back to Donington to qualify his touring car race there yesterday. He's come here. His partner Joe Polly, son of legendary hot rodder George Polly, is in the entry. You've got James Turkington, Colin Turkington's younger brother. You've got Matt Neal's 2 sons. You've got Jeff Smith's son. You've got Barry Lee's son, Freddie, who had a crash on Saturday in qualifying. Who else do we need to keep an eye to? The people like Mark Wakefield, who's very rapid, Max Bladen, who was a 2016 champion. This is going to be a proper scrap. 13 minutes of racing to look forward to, and in 1 mate racing, you know that it is all about driver talent. So take a big, deep breath ready for this. It is going to be very